I am here to help you guys learn about Bali, help you be educated, help you learn the things that I didn't know and I wish I would have known before I invested into Bali. I love investing into Bali. I love the whole idea of having multiple homes around the world, and Bali being one of them. So I would love to have other people in this journey doing the same things and having multiple homes in Bali, around the world, if this is that really floats your boat. And this podcast is there to just help you navigate the Bali opportunity. Coming to the first biggest, hottest topic right now is what's happened with Bingin and why has it happened now and why Bingin?
I think I shouldn't laugh or smile because it's a serious aspect and there's a lot of people impacted. More than anything, maybe people losing their jobs because of this, and that's sad. But the fact with Bingin is that the process of that I was actually discussing with people in PU, Public Build Ministry, who do PBG and SLF briefly a couple of weeks back when this case actually started to build up. And within their records, this started already 2019. So processes of illegal buildings and so on. And I guess in a nutshell, the whole, after COVID, that sort of emerged much more into what it was back in the day, some food shacks and, locals renting out surfboards and so on. It turned into massive villas, restaurants and hotels, and some of them, I think, are 7, 8, maybe 9 floors high.
Correct.
But the aspect of that is, first of all, this land is owned by the state. It's government-owned land. So all the buildings have no permission from the state to build where they are. So this is where we talk about the conflict with the Banjar and the Adat law, possibly also then the government law. But when you do what we call an avik or an Adat law in Bali, it needs to have now a connection into what we'll call a perda, so a government regulation, which none of these regulation or promises that they've made to these investors has. And the government has then slowly notified these different investors, told them to stop, told them to self-demolish, and they have not complied. I do believe that some of them have been quite, feeling that they may have some backup or something like that. And in the end, the government just took action and are now taking down all of it, yeah.
Okay, so when I look on Bandara, which is like a location where we can see the zoning, right, guys? So I can drop that if you want to look at the zoning. It says that the Bingin, where they are doing this crackdown, is a protected zone, right?
Yeah.
And it says it's protected, and that's for all the beach. So protected zone means you cannot build there at all, and it's been done illegally from the beginning.
Yeah, so it's been illegal. It's not, so one is it's state-owned land and obviously you need permission from the state, and you're building in a zone that you're not supposed to build. It also creates a loss of income from the government then on, you built illegally, there's no retribution or payments on the build permits, there's no tax, maybe there is, but what they would do then is they register their address somewhere else, or maybe they have complied with some kind of tourist taxes, I don't really know, but the reason for why it's a protected zone is that the cliff, and if you know, Uluwatu is old seabed, it used to be ocean, right? So it's not a solid rock. And in certain areas, this protection zone will be just maybe a few meters up to maybe 100 meters, depending on, basically it's dangerous to build in these areas, which is another reason for why these protection zones exist.
Okay.
And if you want to build close to the cliff in maybe a tourist zone, you actually have to comply with drill tests to show that it's solid and you can actually have a 1, 2, 3, 4 floor building.
So do you think that the reason for the government making this move, which is basically now setting Bingin even on fire recently, where, what's happening on ground since I lived there is it's going to be years and years to remove all this debris, right? So they're doing all types of tactics to move it. So recently it was set on fire. Us locals thought we should put a hose and try and stop the fire, but the government then arrested the people that were trying to put down the fire. Why is this for the protection? Do you think that this is truly for the protection of the environment, as you're saying, or everyone is talking about the fact, is it really for the protection, or is it for maybe because you've been here so long and you've seen maybe things like what we are seeing in Bingin repeat, or is it to allow someone like a Finn or someone like a Mirror Group to come in and do something much more substantial with the drill test? And
absolutely not. So I think one is that rumor spread quite quickly, and I don't know where that sort of came from and started. I actually had conversations with government officials, among the top 3 government officials in Badung about this, and they confirmed that there's no other interest in it. They only want to, get the illegal business out. And people then, let's wait and see what happens. I had another meeting actually together with a client yesterday in Satpol Pepe, which is the disciplinary police. And they say they're already preparing drawings, and this was told from a higher level in the government too, that they want to put it back to what it was. Okay. And they will build, green it up, set it back to what it was, and then they will have perhaps bamboo or wooden buildings that the locals can do their little kadai, as I would call it, or warungs, to sell food, to sell coffee, provide smaller services to the community that comes in to enjoy the beach and surf, rather than having massive 9-floor resorts, beach clubs, and so on. So the intentions are good and genuine, and I can't see that there was any interest from anyone else, and I don't think there will be.
Okay. If that is the case, then we just want to get rid of these structures that are, just 9 floors tall, which is one structure there, but other structures that are concrete in nature. We're talking about now moving into Bingin Beach, and also which are actually just these kind of structures, which are not really concrete structures, wanting to also remove those structures out as well, which would be exactly the same that we're talking about. We would build in Bingin, but let's destroy. Is that just to reset the precedent as to why, or is that a threat that's not going to happen?
I think the government actually operates today on, in particular, 9 different sites and areas, which is in particular protected zones. Some of them around Uluwatu. So it'll probably continue to Melasti and these other beaches where you have massive beach clubs also in similar zones. Another area that people talk about, and you can see that the government has been very active recently in Canggu area to look at possible issues there. I think it's less of a breach. There may be some height restrictions, because when you are close to the beach, there is some tsunami protective measurements that you can't have 4 floors. It should have 1 and then sort of come back for whatever reason I don't fully understand. But I think also Jatilui, the protected heritage sites up in Tabanan. And you could also see that, I think yesterday they were down in Nuanu and looking at what goes on there. So it's not a Bingin only thing. The rhetoric from the Bupati of Badung and partly also the government has maybe slowed down a little bit, in the sense that it's all needing a process. And when you see Bingin, and that took maybe 3, 4, 5 years before they actually executed, you would expect that there will be some dialogues ongoing on these other sites, because they're fairly new. But I think the message from the government is clear, that we can't accept this any longer and it has to stop.
So why now? Is that because of the change in government recently, to show that, they're quite serious? The new government wants to show that they are doing something. Like, why now? After that 9 structure has been, and some of those structures have been there 15 years, right? So why is it now?
Well, I think some of the structures are, in terms of how huge they become, happened after COVID in particular. Some maybe a bit longer. But I think that the process of that has taken time, and it's not a new thing. In general, the sort of government, I think, after COVID, there was a bit of, massive build-up, quick return tourism, and what we talked about, the gold rush, which surprised everyone. So I think it also has to do with manning capacity. I can see this in government. There's also some maybe lack of clarity or conflicts within certain regulations, in particular provincial, regency to maybe central, and there is talks about the OSS system not always fitting with zoning maps and so on. But I also think that the central government has put pressure on the provincial and regional government that this has to end. If not, Bali will end.
Okay.
And they've kind of come together, and this has to happen. Personally, I think it's a good thing and it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
And I think most investors in some shape or form knew, and if not, ignorance of law doesn't work. What I think the government should do better is to have a better public relation campaign attached to this to explain to people why it's happening and why they are so reactive at this stage, so that people could follow that rather than having all the rumors that we just talked about, the beach clubs coming and other investors and bribery and whatever else that goes on. Yeah.
So in summary, we're going to move on from this Bingin Crackdown conversation, but in summary, we believe, and I believe, that the intention is actually good, right? What we're trying to do is bring back the ecosystem and the sustainability angle, make something to make Bali really attractive. I've heard stuff like, make it like Australia, where there is not like these massive structures on the beach, rather, and become a destination, like a number one destination that people don't just laugh at and go, did you see what they have done, but become a serious player within the tourism industry. And this will enable the country to prosper. So it's being done for that eco reason of real tourism and real, influx can happen under.
I agree. I think definitely that's the purpose. And for quite some time, it's been talks about, quality tourism, ecotourism. No one has sort of taken the step, I guess, to clearly define what that means. But you see that now that's a synchronized message, I guess, from both central government and then provincial and regency, that if we don't stop this, we'll end to be the attraction that it was, culture, nature, beautiful beaches and so on. So I think the intentions definitely is good, and you can see that both the provincial and again regencies and also central government are very active in reaching out to the community. And I think soon you will actually see a creation of a kind of a business chamber. It won't be specific to any nationalities that some business chambers are, but a general business chamber that formally will talk to the investors and also formally talk to the government. So it'll be a two-way communication, what's going on, socialized regulations, and then feedback to the government about things that us as foreigners see as good and what we also see as maybe not so good, and things that we have questions about.